It is Thursday, September the 18th, 2025. This is episode 80 of the Carlos Whitaker podcast. Welcome, friends. I am really excited about today because we've got an interview with what I quickly found was a kindred spirit of mine. Today's guest is the one and only Jason Woodruff from The Pour Over. Now, The Pour Over is, get this, really cool. A 3 times a week newsletter that delivers the biggest headlines in a clear, concise way, but with a twist. Every story is paired with scripture and a reminder of eternal hope. Now, this is what's pretty cool about it. This and the goal of The Pour Over is to keep Christians informed with the news without leaving them angry, anxious, or overwhelmed. And it's politically neutral. Now, here's the thing. I know you guys are thinking, no way, it's not politically neutral. There's no way, that's impossible. Oh my gosh, do I have the right place for you to get your news if you are a Christ follower? If you're not, let me tell you this. It's also a great place to get your news because it is truly politically neutral. And I'll let Jason get a little bit more into what that means and how they accomplish that on a weekly basis. But today's conversation is a conversation that I think, in the wake of the horrific, tragic events of this last week, is essential for us to have. We can't let opinions create enemies around those around us that we truly should see as neighbors. So whether it is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, whether it is the assassination of the Minnesota lawmakers, whether it is the war in Gaza, whether it is the attempted assassination on a presidential candidate's life, whatever it may be that is fueling your rage, today we talk about how to take back control of your life while you stay informed. I believe that this is going to be a life-transforming message because you, my friend, are worth it. You ready? Here's our conversation with Jason Woodruff. Okay, so Carlos Whitaker podcast listeners, we've got Jason Woodruff on the podcast. And Jason, as I just talked about a second ago, is the, can I say founder of The Pour Over? Is that the right thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that. And I want you, before I even try to, you can open up a website or open up an Instagram account and try to describe what you think it is to people. But when I've got the person that's running it, why don't I just let you, Jason, kind of describe what The Pour Over is?
Hopefully I can nail this one. So we summarize the biggest, most visible news of the day 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We think you need less news, not more. The news itself is politically neutral. We have an editor who loves Jesus and is liberal. We have an editor who loves Jesus and is conservative. Both of them read through everything and sign off and say, hey, my political views have not been unfairly maligned. And then we pair the 3 biggest stories with a brief biblical reminder. So we're not speaking into the specific event. Those Christian perspectives are pre-written, and they're just reinforcing the things that all of us, but specifically me, forget most often and fail with most frequently.
Wow. There's 1,000 places I would like to go. Just off of that, the first thing I want to do is tell you thank you, because I know that this work isn't without its difficulties. And we, at the point of this recording, are in a news cycle that is affecting everybody. Even the ones that don't want to be affected by this news cycle are being affected because maybe their friends are being affected or their kids are being affected or whatever it may be. So when something charged happens in America, when something charged happens, I think where I sit, now I just mentioned this to you before we started talking. I said, yeah, people kind of, they don't come to me for the news. They come to me after they've heard the news. And I kind of, people liken me to a Black Mr. Rogers for grown-ups, and I think I used to take offense to that. But I think now I'm like, actually, no, I think this is a job. I think I have a job here to do, but it's not to give the news. But it is your job to give the news. And we both are looking at our roles through a worldview that is a Christ-centered worldview. How do you handle delivering the news in a non-biased way, nonpartisan way, with Christ as the center? How do you do that? How in the world do you pull this off?
Yeah, it's first, it's hard, and we've had a lot of practice, and we still get it wrong. And so I don't want, I mean, just off the bat, we ask for feedback, and hey, if we get something, if we misrepresent a political side, let us know, and people do. And so don't come to us for perfection. Yeah. But I think a big part of it is just trying. And that's,
I love that.
There's so many news sources are either admittedly not trying, or they say they're trying, but they're not trying. And so we hear from both sides. I mean, we talked about how we have editors who are ingrained in the process. We also get feedback every time we write stories from both sides. And that helps us just understand how people think, what they're hearing, how different words came across. And our goal is to say, we want to remove the political division. We want to absorb the anger and then just report what happened, and then pair it with that, eternal perspective or reminder to love enemies. And so there's a lot of it that is like, hey, just putting in the effort. The other part, and this, we're brief, so we never write more than, I mean, a normal story is 135 words with, you were referencing the Charlie Kirk assassination, with how that has just consumed the news cycle. And there's been such a hunger and need for hope and answers and understanding and good coverage. We did what we rarely do, which is write basically 2 stories in one. So that was 270 words.
Okay.
That's the most. We did that when the Queen died and on election night, and rarely. So, and then again, it's just paired with a reminder of really one of 4 things. Like the first thing we think through is, hey, let's keep an eternal perspective. Does this even matter? Yeah. Another thing that we think about is, hey, be humble and open to correction. The third is, we're called to love everyone and love our enemies. So who in this story are we tempted to hate? And that is who Jesus means by enemy when he's calling you to love the enemy. And then the fourth is to actually respond. If there are people that are hurting and in need, let's not just be hearers. Let's do and actually respond. And that's all. You're going to get one of those 4 things from us on any given story, and nothing more.
Yeah. Jason, who is who is the one that is interacting with people that are consuming the news that you're offering? Because I think what people have quickly come to expect, especially in this era of social media, is because there are so many kind of one-person news sources, right? Like there's so many where news has almost been synonymous with an individual or a personality, or so. When you say that you listen to the feedback, when you say that you're, in conversation with those that are consuming the news that you're given, what does that process look like for you guys?
Yeah. So early on, it was similar to what you said. There were only a couple of us working, and so I read the emails. We've been fortunate, and God has blessed the organization. So we have over 1.5 million subscribers, email subscribers now.
Wow.
And a team that gets to, work on this mission. And so very, very practically, Abby, who's sitting out this door here, she reads every email that comes in.
Okay.
And that's over 1,000 a day. Now, a lot of those are to the welcome email and other things and not related to the content. Yeah. And then she, when we get something wrong, I mean, we'll get 500 emails, but they're saying the same 3 things. And so she then categorizes and will pick a few that are like, hey, this person articulated it really well. And that gets fed back to the writers. And then the writers read through it and say like, hey, were we wrong? Do we need to issue a correction? Put that at the top of the next email. Or here's how we want to respond to them. And so if you email us, a real human reads it, it will get to the writing staff. We'll talk through, and then it gets, cycled back out.
Yeah. Also what I love about what you guys are doing is you may be politically neutral, but you're not when it comes to your faith. And so I think sometimes people do have to understand that and you just blatantly say it. It's not even like that's a hidden thing, that Jesus is the center of what it is you're trying to communicate. Okay, so let's just kind of stay on this path. Obviously, this has been a horrifically tragic week in the news cycle, and so when you have people that have very, very strong opinions on things that have happened, again, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and you're writing news stories about it. Is there a forum where these opinions or conversations happen from your readers? Is it like Instagram? Are you guys replying back and forth? Like what does that kind of look like, especially in such a highly charged moment?
Yeah, there are. The short answer is no. We view part of our role as being a bit of a shield between like our readers and the society, And so saying like a lot of our subscribers are people who have unplugged from the news and have said like, this was bad for me. I watched it tear apart my family. I watched it make me angry and anxious and less like Christ. And so I unplugged. And we're saying, hey, that's of the 2 options, over-consuming and under-consuming, way to go with under-consuming. That can be great. But saying, what does the right amount, a small amount, because this is a great example of if you know what's happening and have been equipped to have conversations, there have been who knows how many God-honoring, gospel-oriented conversations that have sprung up from the fact that people are scared, confused, don't know what's going on, and that provides opportunities for the body of Christ to step in and honor God and have those conversations. And so that's what we're saying is like, what is a small but still some news look like? And the comment sections, social media can just be really, really bad, you know? And so we view, one of the beautiful things about, we're primarily an email newsletter, it's also a podcast, is we hear those things. Like there are people with strong opinions that are angry, and that comes to us and it doesn't flow back to you. Like and so it's like, hey, we'll absorb that. We'll respond to them with love and kindness, but they haven't been given a platform to shout and yell. And if you just also read the news, you then aren't influenced by their hurt and anger, and you can process kind of individually the news. And I want to be really clear, like we stay in our lane. It is the news, and we need the local church and pastors and people like you who are speaking into the cultural moment more. We are reporting the news and reminding people to focus on Christ.
When I started this podcast and started all my Instagram stuff, it seemed like I had to figure everything out on my own, right? I mean, literally, like, how do I film myself? How do I set it up? Do I need a logo? It was so overwhelming. But guess what? When you're starting off with something new, it doesn't have to feel like you're just doing it all on your own. Why? Because we got tools like Shopify. Listen, Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. Listen, you can get started today with your own design studio. They're going to help you do that. You can accelerate your content creation because Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write your product descriptions, your page headlines, and even enhance your photography. That's right. So you can literally get the word out like you have a full marketing team behind you. Shopify does it for you. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Carlos. Go to shopify.com/Carlos. Shopify.com/Carlos. Let Shopify help you. Did you know that 3 out of 4 U.S. homes have toxic chemicals in their tap water? Even though contaminated water looks clear, it could put you at risk for devastating health concerns. Listen, you don't want it. The fatigue, the hormone disruption, the cognitive decline, all of these things legitimately happen when your water is whack. What's the solution? The solution is AquaTrue, the countertop water purifier tested and certified to remove 84 contaminants, including chlorine, lead, forever chemicals, and all sorts of other horrible stuff. AquaTrue has been featured in Business Insider, Popular Science, and named Best Countertop Water Filter by Good Housekeeping. But more than all that, the credibility that you need to know, it is that it is currently sitting on the Whitaker's countertop. We use the AquaTrue water purifier every single day. So this is what I want you to do. Go to aquatrue.com now for 20% off this water purifier using promo code HUMANHOPE. AquaTrue even comes with a 30-day best tasting water guarantee. That's aquatrue.com, AQUATRU.com, promo code HUMANHOPE. You know, it is, you know, it is pretty rare when I run across somebody that is really trying to do things the way that I do. It's not that this is the only way. It's not that it is the perfect way, but it is a way that I think that the last time I polled my audience, and it's probably it's skewed a little bit more now, but it's still goes between 55-45 people on the left versus people on the right. And I think it's surprising to people that as a person that speaks into the cultural moment, whenever that may be, or whatever that may be, that I can kind of keep people that have such highly charged differences of opinions in the same place. And I think it's because of this political neutrality that you speak of. I think what a lot of people think of when they hear that, they immediately think, oh, well, they are just trying to be passive, and they have no strength in their convictions. And so when you say the word politically neutral, do you ever get any pushback on that? Do you ever get people that are like, well, no, if you're a Christian, you've got to, how do you have conversations? Because I think your answer is going to help people that may be listening to this that may think, no, I actually feel this political neutrality that I'm trying to do, but then I'm being told that I shouldn't be. So how do you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Accused of being lukewarm and passive and having no convictions. And the great irony is, like, here we are having a strong conviction that's prompting a strong response, and it's like, well, you just don't like our conviction, but
right.
you can't say that we don't have one. Yeah. So two things. One is that, like, I think there are things that we don't take a stance on that I think Christians should.
Okay.
Like we're a news organization, and we think that there's particular value in the news being politically neutral. That doesn't mean that, like, I don't have views on these, politicized issues or something like that. And the other thing is, it's about putting politics in its proper place in life. So the goal is not politics, and our hope is not in a political party's victory or a politician's victory. We lean to those things and want to do those things because of the perceived outcome that we think they'll have, like because we think they will be loving and care for these people. But if you are unloving in the process of trying to get your political party to win, then you've just you failed. The goal was to be loving. The goal was to love your enemies. And so it's not that we're trying to be politically neutral necessarily. Like, we are overtly, but it's the goal is to put Christ to make to say politics has become an idol for so many people. And so we're going to remove that and focus on Christ and try to remove the political language and the political defensiveness and anger from the conversation.
The focus on Christ and removing the anger and some of the rage. What are ways that you do that as a news organization, besides maybe what I think is something very important, where you do say that you have some sort of biblical, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, parsed it out, but with every news story, something that is pre-written that doesn't necessarily have to do with the news story. Like, how else are you putting Christ as the center when it comes to news?
With the news, not in many other ways, but part of what we do also is, well, I'll say we have so it's called the pour over, and then we have decaf, which is the pour over for families.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
We rewrite one story a week, the biggest story of the week, and then pair it with more, like there's more reflection in response for, hey, here's how to talk with, this was rewritten at a 6th grade level, and here's how to have the conversation. So that is much more overt. And then we also have we're launching a Praying the News newsletter, which is like, we have staff on our team who's incredible in writing like prayers and responses for not a specific story, but recurring themes in the news.
Yeah.
And also what we call right now News Health. And that's a weekly newsletter that I write that's about the principles of how to have a spiritually healthy relationship with the news. And it's like, hey, whether you're getting it from us or someone else, our collective relationship with the news is like, I don't even need to argue that it's bad. Everyone freely admits that it's bad. And it's a unique thing. You know, your grandfather and grandmother couldn't overconsume the news. Like, if they were news junkies, that means they read one newspaper and watched, 30 minutes of politically neutral news or unbiased news. So like it's a new problem that this generation has, and we've handled it really, really poorly. And we need biblical wisdom and boundaries for what does a healthy relationship with the news look like.
Oh, it's so good. Yesterday, at the point of this recording yesterday, I just kind of rambled on my Instagram for 15 minutes. And because I had not kind of spoken necessarily myself to the camera, to my phone on kind of the week. And a lot of people were waiting. I could just kind of feel it. Or my DMs were like, when are you going to say something? We need you, da, da, da. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just kind of like, blah. And when it came out, I was like, oh, you know what? After 15 minutes of rambling, I'm kind of glad it was a ramble instead of like some scripted 90-second reel. I stumbled onto the Beatitudes, and what I loved about when I just started reading Jesus's words, and I had done that before I'd made the reel. I felt like I was like, no, thank you, Jesus. No, I don't want to do this. Like, what are you talking about? Love my enemies. What are you? This is not something that is easy to do. But I just read it, and this is what I found profound: is that the amount of people that were offended. What I said was so politically neutral. It was so politically neutral. And I had people DMing me going, when are you gonna call out the left? When are you gonna call out the left? And I had people on the left literally DMing me going, well, then when are you gonna call out the right? And what I realized is everybody is taking this personally. Like, just like they need to be. Everybody is hearing the words of Jesus and feeling the conviction, not from me. But from the words of Jesus. And so I say that because I do know that we are in an unhealthy state of being in relationship with politics and with the news and with, I call the phone the needle, and I call rage the drug. So people say we're addicted to our phones. I say we're not addicted to our phones. The phone is just the needle. We're addicted to the drug flowing through it. And rage is the new drug we're all addicted to. How do you continue to do what you do when you know that people are so addicted to the feelings of rage that not you're giving them, but the feelings of rage that they get when they do nothing but scroll and do it? What are you doing to help combat that, I guess? I know that was a whole lot. I didn't mean to preach a sermon, but
No, that was excellent. It was so good. And we actually sent a this is not answering your question, but on Monday sent a past edition of News Health that was on loving your political enemies.
wow.
And it's saying, hey, when I growing up, when I was told to like love my enemy, I don't have a list of enemies. I don't really like know what that means. And now when I add the word like love my political enemy, that just hits home in a different way. It's like, man, whether or not I can picture a specific person, I know the type of person, you know, and it's the response to that was overwhelmingly positive. And then also we get this pushback of like, but no, there are some things like the enemy's too bad.
Yeah.
We actually should. And what is loving is harshness. Like that was
yes.
one of the words,
Yes.
literally a quote that I received. And it's like, I think, and I'm still processing through this.
Yeah.
So help me put words to it. But it feels like we have this view of like, oh, I'm called to love this person. And I know I've said like, it takes this much love. This is how much love I'll give. And then when they do something that requires more, we go, okay, that's like, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
And we think, okay, Jesus didn't want me to love that much because that was so evil.
Yeah.
And I think we need to like, we can't assume that Jesus didn't understand how evil the enemy would be. Like we should assume that we did not understand how difficult and how much love that we need to like
yes.
combat it with.
Yeah.
And then also just wrestling with the like, even saying that feels wishy-washy of like, what does it mean? But the Apostle Paul gives us a definition of love. Like love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not harsh.
Right.
And so to say, oh, well, the most loving thing is to just speak what is true with harshness. It's like that, you could argue that might be necessary, but you can't argue that that is loving. We have a definition of love, and it is defined as the opposite of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just to go back and answer some of your question, like like a drug, it is addicting, and it feels good in the moment and energizing in the moment, but people are not happy. And we hear all the time of, oh my gosh, I feel like I can breathe. This is the first news I can consume without feeling overwhelmed. And there's a sigh of relief and gratitude in that.
Yeah.
And so we have, we post some news on Instagram, but we really believe and try to push people to say, hey, get our news via email, get our news via podcast, get our news. Like we're going to launch an app sometime soon, and text message and saying like, remove yourself from the problem. Like if you're angry and anxious, step number one is like, stop pumping yourself full of anger and anxiety and like see if that works,
No, it's good. I continuing on in that conversation with the idea of the phone being the needle, it's like, well, if this is the needle that is injecting the rage into your heart and your veins, then remove it for a day. I love what you said about our grandparents' generation and the news consumption, because there was a Harvard study that I found that showed that the amount of content that they consumed in a month, the amount of content that they consumed in a month is the same that we consume in a day when it comes to what we're consuming. And so, we just weren't created for that. And so that's where this rage is coming from. And one of the points I made in my reel was like, you can still unplug from whatever it is that you are getting this rage from, and you can still feel angry. You can still feel sad. You can still feel these things, but the rage should go away. And I feel like that is the litmus test, is this rage that is the new drug. I heard somebody say this last week that it used to be sex cells. People would say, hey, sex cells, put sex in and that's going to sell. Now it's rage cells. And so, what I love that the pour over is doing is you're removing the rage from the news. You're removing the clickbaity rage from the news. And I think more and more people are getting to the place of going like, I think I do need to breathe again. Because I think for a
Mhm.
while, people didn't even know that they weren't breathing. But now I feel like people have been holding their breath for such a long time that they need that exhale that the pour over's giving.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you forget that social media used to be like Zuckerberg was a hero. It was like he
Sure.
connected all of us. And for years, it
Yeah.
was like this incredible. And then at some point, we were like, this is actually social media is kind of killing me. I'm just jealous all the time. And like,
Totally.
I can't think. And man, I pray that we are having that moment with the news, and we're
Yeah.
certainly seeing it. Like even just in this week, we have never grown as much as we have in the
Wow.
last week, and it's because and we know that it's not that unbiased news is having its moment or
Yeah.
whatever. Like we're aware of other newsletters and stuff. It's because people want Jesus. They
Yeah.
want the calm, the hope,
Yeah.
the promise of Christ. They need a firm foundation, and
Yeah.
that firm foundation is not political neutrality. It's not being aware of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Why don't you do this for us if you can here at the end? Just give, you're in it every day. There's people that are listening to this that are like, okay, I got to subscribe to this thing. How do I get on this thing? But what, besides, obviously, I'm going to tell everybody to subscribe to what you're doing. What are some habits, some practices, some things that people can implement in their lives where they maybe can disconnect from the rage of the news just a little bit?
So flipping what I will project your relationship with the news is to saying like, I'm generally plugged in and I allow breaking news updates and things to interrupt my life so that I'm aware of what's going on. Flip that and say, hey, I get, and you pick the number, I advocate for 15 minutes or less a day.
Yeah.
Say, this is my news window, and I'm going to intentionally sit down and catch up on what's going on. And if something happens outside that window, if it's really important, someone will tap me on the shoulder and tell
Yep.
me, like if I need to actually act and do something, or I'll find out about it tomorrow.
This
And
is so good.
and so just like fast from the news the majority of the time. And that means add friction, like that means at least turning off breaking news updates.
Yeah.
Probably it means deleting apps from your phone. Like
Yeah.
you can open up the browser and type in like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a pain. That's the point. We
That's the
want it
point.
to be more difficult. And then the other thing I would advocate for, and this can just be really eye-opening, is spend a week tracking how much time you spend in the news or news commentary or hearing that, and how much time you spend with Jesus and Christian commentary and whatever. And it's like, you'll see, of course you think about the news way more. And of course that you're angry and anxious and that the peace of Christ is not overwhelming the news. You're likely giving 4 or 5 times the amount of time to news commentary, that long form podcast, whatever, or cable news, as opposed to,
At
even
least.
just yes.
At least 4 to 5 times. No, Jason, this is so good. People are actually probably, especially my regular listeners or people that have read my books, are probably thinking, did Carlos feed Jason these answers? Because it sounds like the exact same thing he's been telling us. In my book, Reconnected, so that my last book, I spent 7 weeks. I didn't look at a screen. I lived with monks. I lived with the Amish. And I got my brain scanned before and after. And one of the things I tell people is, I knew what was happening in the world. I didn't have my phone. But when I was living with Farmer Willis and we were out on the tractor in the morning, he's like, man, did you hear about, I read in the paper this morning, did you hear about whatever? And I was like, no, I didn't. And then he would tell me, and I knew the news. And then when I got home, I subscribed to this really crazy thing called a newspaper. They throw it in my front yard every morning, and I go out there like Mr. Beaver and leave it to Beaver, and I pick it up, and I have my coffee, and I read the newspaper. And it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to read the newspaper. And literally what you said, I say all the time. And then if anything else happens on planet Earth, I'll find out tomorrow, or I'll find out when somebody tells me, And so it's just so good, man. And I just feel like I found a kindred spirit. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good. I'm just so grateful for what you're doing.
Well, and that's so affirming because you've put in the work. I haven't unplugged like that for 7 weeks at a time. So that's so affirming to me to say like, hey, someone wiser than me who has actually put it into practice can affirm the same thing.
Yeah, no, so good, dude. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I think this is going to be gigantic for my listeners, just for their hearts, and even some hope that, oh my gosh, there is a better way. And I think you're showing us that way.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
What did I say? Jason, thank you for bringing your insights to us. And if there's one thing I want us to walk away with from Jason's conversation is this. I want you to put the news back in its proper place in your life. And you cannot do that if you incessantly scroll. I'm telling you, I released a reel this week that got some traction where I talk about, and we've talked about this last week on the episode. I did a whole message on this, but the phone being the needle, not the drug. And the drug is rage. So what do we do? How do we put healthy stuff back flowing through that needle into our bodies? It's essential, and I think it is important. And I think Jason helped us do that today. So, friends, thanks for listening to another episode of the Carlos Whitaker Podcast. And I'll see you next week back here as we do it one more time. Not one more time. I don't know how many more times we're going to do this. Who knows how much longer this podcast is going to be alive. So come back every single week to get your just dose of what I hope is hope for humanity. See you next week.